Hi there. Welcome to the Freddie Kissoon Show with my co-host. You see him on the screen, Leonard Craig. I did say to you, and from time to time I will repeat it. Mr. Craig is very well educated. He has a first degree in economics from UG, a second degree in the subject from the Berlin School of Economics, and completed PhD studies at Harbin Institute of Technology in China. I think his thesis was international trade. So, a very well-educated man. This evening, we will continue with our format. Now, if you look at the advertisement, it doesn't say that we have guests. We just present 4 presidential candidates, and we will discuss the prospects of those presidential candidates. So Leonard Craig and I continue our format in which we offer our opinions, viewpoint, perspectives, and analyses on what is going on in Guyana. We will be back on Friday with a call-in, and we'll have our guest on Monday. But for this evening, Wednesday, Leonard Craig and I are rapping. We're rapping with our viewers, our callers, and we're rapping among ourselves. But most of all, we're offering our analysis on the occurrences happening, developments, trials and tribulations, positive and negative dimensions of Guyana. So I will ask our operator to look at our first topic. If I'd like to have Leonard Craig. We already heard Craig on this subject, but the budget debate is on, and we're coming down to election. So, operator, put this lady on the screen.
Yeah.
Right. Leonard, I thought I would discuss this because we're into an election which may be in October. And now that the budget is on, as you know, the opposition walked out when she rose to speak. But here was one of the vibes I've been getting when I reach people in the seawall in the supermarket. They've been asking me a question and I dismiss it right away. They were saying to me, you think Frederick Kissoon would be on the PPP slate for 2025? And I told them, the PPP would never make that gamble, and no other party will make that gamble because it's a risk. For example, no one has supported Frederick Kissoon in what she's doing. Frederick Kissoon's name doesn't travel well at all in Guyana. And what can she bring to any political party?
Freddie, this is my view. I agree that her popularity is in the dust, and what she has done is not well received by anyone. And even people who want to support her for strategic political reasons, there are strategic political benefits to be had by her being there. And even those who support that, now the convention generally in political parties are that once a person is eligible under the Constitution to run for an election and they express that desire, they're usually not kept off of a list, except for specific strategic political reasons. I am not sure if the PPP should entirely say no to her, because you're thinking that it's a free society, and I understand what you're saying. It will look bad, it will reflect bad on the entire list of the PPP. But then when it comes to freedom of political expression and her desire to be a candidate for the PPP, and remember how the list system worked. Even though there are only 65 parliamentarians, and usually governing party wins in the 30s, right? Number of seats I'm referring to. Your list is usually made up about 200 people. And Asha Kissoon being one of 200, I think her effect gets diluted because of that.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, sure.
So for me, it's not a big deal if she ends up on the PPP list of candidates. It's not a big deal. It may not reflect well on the entire list, and it will give the opposition ammunition. And probably for those reasons, it should be avoided. But at the same time, that is neither here nor there. We're concerned.
Okay, well, look at this. Look at it this way. In politics, even in social life, particularly in organizational employment, there is this traditional thing in politics and in journalism, this traditional question: what do you bring to the table? There's always that. Now, I would like to see an analyst tell me, what would Asha Kissoon bring to the table for any organization? Any. That's number one. Number two, why would, in a list of 200 selectees, in a list of 200 selectees, which would be narrowed down to 65, why would you choose someone that, A, will give the opposition ammunition to shoot at you, when 199 other selectees will be a difficult target for the opposition? Secondly, why would you put someone on your list that politically, philosophically, whatever, doesn't have a track record or doesn't have a plate in which, when you look at it, you see some things positive? So what you do, you defend her by overlooking the negatives and say, look, these are the positives. Now, one of the positives for Asha Kissoon, but I think she is too dense to realize that. And one of the things that could have had going for her is if she had said to the public, I know you feel, this is common sense. And sometimes I wonder, this lady don't have common sense. In life, you offer an explanation in the hope that gullible people would pick it up, or people who are even sensible. Now, one of the things I thought she should do is said, look, and she should probably say this more often, I know there is some controversy. I know they talk about what, I understand what those people have said, but they have to understand where I am going. And this is where I'm going. And then people would say, but look, the lady offered an explanation. She believes in A, B, C, D, and by being there, she can contribute to that. She has not done that, and one doesn't understand why whoever is close to her, whoever wants to patronize her, doesn't tell her, look, make a statement, run with it, and see where it gets you. But she sits down there and says nothing. The third thing is that in a country where we fought vigorously, phenomenally for free and fair election, of which the worst attempt to deny us the right to vote was 2020. Imagine what, when the campaign gets into swinging, gets into full swinging. You have discussions like this. You have discussions on other social media platform, television. And someone says to the Guyanese nation, this lady got 240 votes. And with those 240 votes, she spent 2.5 years in Parliament denying the other section on the join the list that had 2,400 votes. We must always remember that no matter how much this country is ethnically divided, the demographics, what have you, there is a school of decent people religious, family-oriented people who believe strongly in moral right and wrong. And those people may not buy the explanation of an organization taking her.
I hear you. I can't disagree. But the onus also is on Miss Kissoon or Dr. Kissoon not to put that kind of pressure on any political party.
Right. Perfect. Yeah.
In that
That's a perfect thing to say, right?
That she should, of her own self, take a break, probably from politics, be quiet for a while, and then if she believes she has more to contribute to the politics of Guyana, she is still a very young person. I think she's probably in her 30s. And she got a whole life ahead of her. And one mistake shouldn't discount her for the rest of her life. But the mistake is so egregious that she has to atone for it somewhere or the other. The other thing she could have said, added to what you were saying just now, is that there are some holes in our constitutional arrangement. And clearly there's a hole that caused her to end up there. And her being there should challenge the system to refine it. And she could also say that I understand people are hurt by my actions, but my actions, I am taking action to refine this constitution that allowed me to be able to sit here. And I understand you're hurt, but let the process play out. A lot of us may not accept her explanation, but maybe because of the political side we sit on, or maybe because of how we reason things in a, and we desire a more decent political space within which people work, we may not accept that explanation. But
say something.
If it's an explanation and she is actively working, like she's putting out different papers or speech or ideas for refining the system to ensure that we close that gap that allow her to be able to take up that seat, and we see her actively doing that, then we would eventually have to accept that though she is not in the best moral position, she is using that to ensure Guyana is better off. But as it is right now, she's just sitting there, doing nothing, saying nothing, making no effort, and literally, in my opinion, squatting on the seat, right? And as you said, less than 300 votes.
240, 60 less than 300.
And it can't be right. It can't. I can't find it in myself to defend that.
But one of the things one of the sordid things about the lady, and it seems she doesn't reflect in her life, is that what we are talking about is common sense. And no one has seen, I don't think she has been advised, because if she had got that advice, I think we would have seen a statement from her. So I think people just do not go to her and tell her anything. She just sit there, because you have an enormous amount of political minds in this country. And even one or two could have gone to her and said, listen, this thing looking bad. Listen, do A, B, C, D. But I think if they had told her that, she probably would have done it, but I don't think nobody's touching her. I think Parliament calls, into session, parliamentarians do their thing, she sits there, Parliament is over, the PNC, PPP colleagues gone their own way, Parliament reconvenes, the PPP PNC people, they do their thing and they're gone. And I think they just expect her to sit down there. What that is so. Anyway, do you know Simona personally? Simona has thrown her hat in the ring.
I have, during the time in the coalition, I've worked with her on several initiatives. So yes, my own impression about Simona's hat in the ring is that she is, I want to pilfer an idea from Sharma Solomon, who talks about the reservoir. She's dipping from the same opposition reservoir. I don't think Simona possesses the political attractiveness to those who support, who are inclined to support the government. And her party would have to come very strong with a broad base slate and all of that to even pique the interest of people who are inclined to support Irfan Ali's government. And so what Brooms is doing is further dividing the pie, the opposition pie. And it is for Norton and the AFC and the others to know or to come up with strategic way of dealing with Brooms. But if at all she makes an indent on the thing, it is on the political space and landscape, or at the ballot box. It's going to be that same pool of support base that she's gonna dip into.
Operator, can you put up our advertisement, please, on the screen? Now,
Go ahead.
okay, operator. Now, Leonard, you think we did Simona injustice in not putting her there?
Yes.
Well, the thing is, Virginia Bissessar has formed a party.
No,
You got
Virginia Bissessar
Sarabu Hali has formed a party.
Oh, okay, hear this. Virginia Bissessar.
You know how much people say why we didn't put them?
All right, this is my argument, as we had discussed before the show started. This is my argument. Virginia Bissessar formed a party, but he has not officially declared his candidacy as presidential candidate. But Simona Brooms has.
Sarabu Hali.
No, she hasn't, as far as I know. She's still a part of the coalition.
She's the Simona is the
But
only
so
one that
Simona
says
is the only one who launched the party and is heading the ticket as the presidential candidate.
Is that so? Or she just formed up? You know that?
That is what, at least that's what the news says.
That she heading the list, she will be a presidential candidate?
Yes. And being the only woman, I think she should take a prominent space in any discussion.
Sarabu Hali is a woman?
Yeah, but she is still part of the coalition. She has not declared presidential ambitions. But Simona has.
But I would think if you form a party to contest election, it automatically, if you buy a car to go to work, it automatically means you'll be driving to work every day.
Not necessarily.
Or you'll be driven to work every day.
Right, and you driving and being driven is two different.
But you'll be traveling in a car.
Yeah, the car is just a vehicle.
You'll be traveling. No, it's an analogy. I'm talking about logical deduction. The logical deduction is that you will now be in a car.
Yeah, but
so the logical deduction is if you head a party, you can be the president.
No, it doesn't fit in this case because Sarabu Hali, the moment she formed the party, she entered the coalition. Like literally the moment. So, and she has never declared presidential ambitions. Never ever. I've never read it anywhere. I know her very well, and she has not mentioned it So to me, it's something different, and because Brooms is the only woman who has declared her candidacy openly, Brooms is a lot more popular than Sarabo Hali and all of that. I think she should have a place in any discussion on presidential candidates. That's just my opinion. She's might even be more popular than one of the names, at least one of the names on that list that we have, Dr. France. She probably would be more popular than him.
Put that list back again, operator. Could you put that list back on?
Is the operator even in his seat? Is he?
Okay. What I wanted to ask is that is she may be more known than Dr. Mark France, but since she became leader of ANUG, and ANUG is generally seen as a middle class party, people would have known him by now, wouldn't they?
Yeah, but
I know Simona's been around a long time.
Yeah, but the people who would take note of him are the middle class people thing, but most working class and not only middle class people vote, but most working class people and middle class people would know Brooms.
Simone, and she was a deputy minister, wasn't she?
Yes, and beyond that, I read that Roshan Khan, I don't
Senior
know,
or junior?
Senior, has made a
statement,
Facebook post congratulating her. I think people have wrongly interpreted that to say that he endorsed. Knowing somebody personally,
I know Khan is a PPP,
and congratulating them is different from endorsing them. For example, Nigel Hughes was at the opening of Simona's party.
That doesn't mean
he endorsed. He showed her that courtesy.
You were there?
No, not at all. But he showed that courtesy as a leader, and in the political arena. This is a time of calm just before war breaks, quote unquote, and it doesn't mean he endorsed.
You sound like the former Minister of Finance. He was addressing a meeting in Bartica, and he said, "War break." What's his name again?
Surely.
Who? The former Finance Minister. Jordan. War break. But that was August 2019.
Okay.
But I didn't see the war. I don't know. Do you think there are 4 parties in APNU? Sarabhali Party, Jaipal Sharma Party, and of course National Democratic Alliance with Keith Scott and Guyana Action Party. Do you think Simona will join and try to squeak in and get a seat in Parliament?
Well, I could only go by what she has said. She said there's a Demerara Waves article that the reporter interviewed her on the sidelines, like after the thing, and she said no way is she going to be part either of APNU or of the AFC. Right? So my interpretation there is that if AFC does not go with APNU and they offer Simona Brooms to go together with her, she's not going to do that. Nor is she going to go with APNU, nor is she going to go with APNU plus AFC. So if that holds, because some of these strong statements have changed, because you remember just before the coalition between the APNU and the AFC.
Dead meat?
Yeah. Kemraj Ramjatan said, no, we're not going.
If we only go,
we'll become dead meat. And that was an extremely strong statement. And we know people walk back from those statements and so on. So Simona Brooms is now starting. And a lot of approaches will be made to her, I guess. And is my belief that there will be a rethinking, because any sensible person who understands the political landscape of Guyana will know that Simona Brooms can only dip from the fountain that, or from the cistern that AFC and APNU shares. And the people who are inclined to vote for Irfan Ali, there's nothing that I've seen as yet that is attractive, that would be attractive to people of that persuasion. And so it would make sense, based on the question you asked, it would make sense for them to coalesce.
But if she has, there seem to be some strong personal undercurrents going on in the PNC, Norton versus the West. So if this thing is so strong, already there's a big spat between Nigel Hughes and Norton. Norton said, look, the PNC Congress endorsed me as the PNC candidate. If there's going to be any other thing, I will have to be involved in making that decision. Mm-hmm. Nigel Hughes said, no, there is no guarantee of a Aubrey Norton candidacy in a consensus slate. There's work to be done before we arrive on that. So we will come now to our advertisement. But I wanted to remind our viewers the dead meat statement you say was very strong. But do you know, could you remember this one? When the APNU, AFC, separately in the 2011 Parliament, Nagamutu wanted the speakership. Mm-hmm. And this is what David Granger said. David Granger challenged Nagamutu's bringing catch of votes for the AFC by saying, and he called his name, he said, Charandas Prasad also did very well in Berbice. So he was saying, why you keep harping on Nagamutu, Charandas did very well too. Mm-hmm. It so turned out in 2015, Granger and Nagamutu became presidential / prime ministerial candidate, although Granger didn't want him for the speakership.
You see, there are lots of things in politics that is convenience. So usually in politics, and a lot of Guyanese people are angry, for example, with James Bond and so on, and people who, quote unquote, switch across the floor. But people's
Chase Green
activism in politics, a lot of it has to do with convenience and what people believe they can accomplish for sometimes for themselves and for the people of Guyana. And at that given time, where they can best accomplish that. And there are no permanent, the very few permanent political relationships, very, very few. They are sometimes, for example, I know in the AFC, there was a period of time when there was a serious falling out and the party almost split in two, literally.
What year was that?
There was a serious falling out between
Ramjatan and Trotman over the presidential thing.
Right, because remember we started by saying there would be a rotation at first, and then after that you open it to votes. And then when it was Ramjatan's time, Trotman made a public statement that, that wasn't set in stone and that people got to vie. And then a lot of the supporters in the party rose up in favor of Ramjatan and saying, okay, this is how we understood it as well. The legal language might not be that, but this is how we understood it. This is what we expected. And they put pressure on Trotman, and a lot of Ramjatan's core support base was very, very antagonistic towards Trotman.
Yeah, I think it was a
And
guy called Dr. Somar. I
and some
saw those emails. He was personally
very
insulting to,
caustic, yes, right? And they could have been, but remember, as I'm saying, political relationships are a lot of times are for convenience. Raphael is a founder of the AFC, and a founder of the AFC is bound by different rules. By any party, a founder of any party, founders of any party are bound by different rules than people who actually join as members. You got to think
called
twice.
entitlement. It's
Not
called
the-
entitlement, yeah.
Yeah, it's entitlement that is one, but you got to think twice before you walk away from your own party that you formed. But I believe, I don't know that for sure. Trotman has never said it to me, but I believe Trotman was seriously considering taking a rest from politics for a while, and probably
During that dispute in
during
London?
that. Yes, that is what I believe. I am saying again that Trotman has not said that to me. I have not heard him say that anywhere. This is just my own closely held belief that it really, really affected him. And but again, I'm saying he's not bound, and that convenience, that convenient rule that he was bound by as a founder, you can't just throw in the towel. There's so many people who grew to love you, so many people who expect your leadership and all of that, and you can't. And that is one of the conveniences I'm referring to in politics, right? Moses Nagamoto leaving the PPP to go to the AFC, for him at that time, was a move of convenience. I don't think Nagamoto fell out of love with the PPP that instant when he left. I think he still had a lot of friends and still had a lot of love for the PPP, but it was not convenient for his political career anymore. And so a lot of these things, some of these codes that we're bound by, is what I'm referring to as that convenience. Further, if we and so I think part of that is what Granger was speaking to. Nagamoto had just come from the PPP, and Granger probably was thinking, hey, this man just came in. He has not shaken. He came in because of convenience, obviously, and he has not shaken all that love for the PPP, and he might still have a lot of this residual PPP mindset in him, and we don't want to take that chance. I have heard one theory which said that Granger preferred an African person instead of an Indian person, because, for example, the AFC was adamant that we brought about
a minority government.
This minority government, and if you want our support in Parliament as a combined opposition, we are not settling for anything else other than speakership. And the PNC's hands were tied, and they're saying, okay, we're going to give you the speakership, but not Moses Nagamoto. And I think that is what Granger was speaking to. And again, Granger has not said this in public, in my opinion, in my hearing. I've not read it, but this is just an analysis I'm making, that Granger was evaluating that convenience that exists in politics. And more of our voters and viewers got to understand this concept of political, of convenience, and don't tie people forever to a party, either because of their race or because of their upbringing or anything like that. give people that freedom to move around, and more if that freedom exists, Guyana can only become better for it. And I believe we should stop demonizing people who are attempting to, to make that, because it takes tremendous courage and bravery to walk away from a party that you have developed and grown to love and associate yourself with another party. And I think that is a quality that people will want from their politicians.
But your theory of convenience, although it stands, and I think it's a valid theoretical postulation, there's also the psychological effect of a shock. You call it a shock to the system, that people can leave a party because the whole ideological edifice, which contains mores, ethics, customs, just collapse when you see something in your party that went astray, and that aberration or anomaly is defended. It's defended, and you say, I can't be part of this. And I think that throughout Guyana's political history has happened. Now, you have someone like Roysdale Ford. I mean, Ford has a legal mind. Ford was the legal man in all the election thing. And then Ford, like Vincent Alexander discovered, he running for leadership, and a ghost district now has 60 delegates. Alexander, when he was competing for leadership with Corbyn, discovered that the Working West branch on Durban Street of the PNC, which was abandoned, suddenly had 60 delegates. I think that thing just shocks your system, and you say, is this what I fought for this party? Like Roger Ford once said, they're criticizing me. I did all this work for the party during the election in no confidence freely. Now, when you give so much of your time, your legal erudition and all, and you see your colleagues doing some things that are just malignant. You say, no, I had enough of this. Now, we don't know why Simona Booms left. We know why Roysdale Ford left, because he sat down here.
He left?
Why he didn't contest the presidency, and I'm taking a low profile now. He explained here that there were irregularities, and when he brought it up, no one has an answer for it, and in turn, the reaction was to demonize him. Now, you could see how that can push one from a traditional party that they founded to leave the party. Maybe it hurts deeply.
Yes, so that psychological position that you're talking about has to be accounted for, because organizations are like a person, in the law recognizes organizations and corporations literally legal entities.
A legal person.
And humans also attach similar sentiments to organizations, to symbols. You were with the PPP since you were a youth, and those three letters together, PPP, just means something to you. And however, in politics and in almost every other dimensions, sometimes even in religion and so on, there is, if you know the number line, there's a spectrum. And as you move closer to zero, your feelings towards an organization is neutral. And then you can move on the negative side. But as you move towards the positive side, your feelings for the group or the organization is stronger. And everybody who are members of the organization is somewhere on that line. Some people are strong all the way up to 100. Some people are at 50. Some people are close to zero, being neutral. Some people are on the negative. Every person who's in an organization is on that side. And when your personal choices, your personal beliefs, your personal moral, and so on, starts sliding more towards the negative side, it represents a moving away from the organization and ripping yourself apart from it. Even though an organization is going down the wrong road, some people will not leave it and some people will join, even though they know some of its actions are in divergence to their own moral or ethical position. And sometimes there's an explanation for that. And one such explanation is a person believes, one, over time they can make a difference. Two, some people believe in that the organization is bigger than the person. And I'm in the organization and I'm airing my views. I do not air it outside in the public, but I air my views inside the organization and hope over time that the things I care about the most, that the organization changes for the better where those things are concerned. And when the organization no longer serves that expectation, I think people then move out. It is unfair, though, to each member of the organization to lay upon them the burden of every single mistake the organization makes. What I'm saying is that politics is a platform kind of thing. When you try to be a generalist in a political party, you get burnt out, you get distressed, and you don't last for too long. Just like in an organization, you have departments and kind of silos. You work together, but you're still in a silo. Here you are, accounts department, personnel department, and all of that. So if you're in personnel department and a corruption happening in
human resource.
Right. Well, human resource personnel.
Yeah.
And a corruption is happening in finance. You don't get up as a human resource manager and say, I cannot live with corruption, so I am going to leave the organization. That is not your area of activism. That's not your function.
No, man, you're vulgarizing. You're vulgarizing human conscience.
Right. Okay. Let me hear that. I'm interested in what you
people go through life. We're gonna come with asking our viewers to bear up with us. We're gonna discuss. We're gonna discuss which one in our advertisement, which of these presidential contenders will get a rude awakening. I think people go through life with a conscience edifice. There's an edifice of moral values, ethical, beliefs, what have you. And they feel those values are overriding in one's behavior or in an organization's behavior. What you are doing there is compartmentalizing human conscience. Human conscience cannot be compartmentalized because it's a monolithic thing. It's a thing about making a distinction between wrong and right. So if within a given framework, an organization, a political party, an employment situation, if there is a serious breach of ethics, of principles, of equality, you can't say the man in Barbies, his branch, shouldn't say what happened in the quarantine branch. And the best example I could give that is so powerful in the world today is sexual harassment. Now, this guy is a field officer, he's a field engineer, and he gone all over in Bobby's digging trenches thing. And somebody in the accounts department sexually harass an employee. I think his conscience would say to him, I belong to this organization. This organization has to hold an investigation. Mind you, he don't even go into the head office. He's all over the country digging drains and those kind of things. I think his position, based on the theory of conscience edifice, is valid.
Good. And what you said is valid, but this is what I'm saying. It is also unfair to say to that man who's digging the drain that your conscience must extend to that. If he says to himself or he
you're
says to
repeating
you,
yourself.
no.
He's part of an organization.
Yes, but I am saying
that
to you,
emits sexual harassment.
yeah,
occurred.
but that is if he is conscious and he's concerned, or his level of concern is that high for sexual harassment. So if he says, look, man, I hear they got sexual harassment over so, but I'm a simple drain digger and I want to concentrate on my drain digging. I don't think...
I think we got to discuss, I'm watching the time, we got to discuss our advertisement. Which of these four candidates you likely to think is going to be disappointed in 2025? So I am saying openly and unambiguously with pellucid forcefulness, and knowing you, it's not going to be Irfan Ali. I think Irfan Ali, with his unique style and his untraditional approach to power exercise, is going to win the elections. It's Dr. Mark France, it's Nigel Hughes, and it's Aubrey Norton. It seemed to my mind that Dr. France from Anug is going to retain that small coterie of mulatto Creole people who want to see, a party with clay complexion people, with middle class people, with westernized people. And they're not going to vote for Aubrey Norton. They may be inclined to vote for AFC, but I believe because Nigel Hughes is carrying people with him that have so much baggage, Hughes is going to suffer in that respect. As to Norton, in other words, to answer the question on our advertisement, I think Norton and Hughes are going to get the rude awakening.
It depends on what are their realistic aims. Norton cannot say in public that he don't expect to be the president after 2025 elections. He can't say that in public. And I would be shocked if Nigel Hughes is declared presidential candidate and he says that he don't expect to be president after 2025, at least in the public space. But beyond the public space, there's a reality in how you evaluate your real chances at the polls. And it depends on what are those beliefs, the private, conscious calculations. It depends on what those beliefs are that will bring the disappointment you're speaking about. And some of that we may not know. But yes, what you're probably referring to is the public expectation and the public posturing and so on. Maybe Dr. France will also be very, very disappointed. Maybe they're planning for 4 or 5 seats and maybe they barely scrape 1 or none. For them, that's a big disappointment. But the political evaluators and analysts may not count that as a disappointment because they may have already counted out France. But again, I'm saying I don't know why you keep leaving out Simona, because Simona might on her own get more votes than France. I don't know. But all I'm saying is that the level of disappointment has to do with those private, internal, reality-based calculations as to whether AFC going on its own, whether the leadership in the AFC actually think they can win 3 seats, 4 seats, 5 seats, whatever are their calculations. Currently, though, I think AFC is in a kind of dilemma whereby I think some or a large part of the executive leadership believes that AFC shouldn't and can't go on its own. And there's another faction that believes AFC should go on its own. And so there is that tug of war going on in the AFC. The ones I believe who don't want to face the electorate on their own are the lazy ones. They don't want to go out there on their own and work and earn their stripes. They want to continually piggyback on
the
APNU
PNC.
or on the PNC as thing, and live behind an agreement. And that is why the AFC did not go to the 2018 local government elections, because I believe that it just did not have the capacity. They had too many lazy people who were moved into situations that they probably did not deserve, and they couldn't earn their stripes literally in that position. And 2018 was a time to step out from behind that and show what you're made of. Even if your returns were small, it would have turned out to be that you would have just created quote-unquote workhorses. But instead, they blame the list and that they're not going to election because of the list. Now the same list exists and they're fighting up to run for an election with the exact list. Well, if the list was your problem in 2018, continue your protest. It's simple.
You have classes in society. You're leftist and analyst. I'm leftist and I'm more inclined to Marxist analysis. So there are classes in society. And the way you dismiss Anug got 2,300 votes. You don't think that mulatto Creole class would say to the PNC, no, Norton has destroyed y'all, even though the mulatto Creole class and African Guyanese have always had a symbiotic relation, Norton is the limit of intolerance. And they say no. If they say to Nigel Hughes, man, Nigel, look how what is the AFC now? The AFC is now dead meat. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to resurrect? Why can't they throw their weight behind Anug, especially when you have two mulatto Creole guys that are the faces of Anug, Kian Jabor and a quintessential mulatto Creole guy, Timothy Jonas? Why can't the disappointment then be used? Because I don't think Norton, I'm saying this, I don't think Norton will concede a used presidential candidate. Norton has two options. Norton is saying we got people in the PNC that could replace me. We don't need a Nigel Hughes to bring that face. That That's one. The second thing I think is up for grabs is, who is this consensus candidate? Then when Norton steps down, you have this consensus presidential candidate, and wow, this man gonna do better than Norton, or do better than a PNC candidate. And time is going. Who is this consensus candidate?
Hear this. I wouldn't be so quick to rush. I hear you, and your analysis there is
plausible.
Very, very plausible. However, I wouldn't rush to that judgment so quickly. One, people that help to make decisions in political parties are not only the party leadership. Financiers makes
another extraneous voices.
Yes, and they can say, and some of them who donate to the AFC are big donors to the PNC, and they may say straight to the PNC, you are not going to get a cent if Norton is the presidential candidate. We are going to put money in this if this person is Nigel. And then when you look at your balance sheet and you realize that this pittance that we have, we can't go to an election with it. It could very well change that Norton would have to bring down his ambitions a notch.
Or his ego.
or ego, or whatever term you'd want to use. So for those reasons, I wouldn't jump to that conclusion, though it is plausible.
But answer the question in our advertisement for our viewers. Which one of these four that you wanted Simona to be included?
Yeah.
So now let's imaginarily include Simona. Which one of these five leaders will get a rude awakening? It's not going to be a finale. So which of these four?
I think if Norton and those who are supporting him do not come down a notch to allow for another person to lead a broad-based coalition or whatever, the person who's going to be most disappointed or most disadvantaged will be Norton. I think the PNC will lose big if all these parties run separately. That is my belief. I think the AFC, and again, I always say on this program, do not underrate political machinery. AFC still has remnants of a political machinery in every single region, and that counts for something. I did not necessarily totally dismiss ANOG, but I will not put them at that level because they simply do not have that political machinery that AFC has. And that political machinery by itself, even with fractured leadership, sometimes works. And I am not ready to discount that. And because of that, I believe...
You are not ready to discount that Hughes may lead a consensus candidacy?
I am also not ready to discount that. Right? And I'm saying that AFC itself may not make it work. But even when you look at even the overseas chapters who bring in a lot of money for the PNC, even the people in the overseas chapters are saying, we don't think Norton is our best candidate. And those are the things that can end up.
But one of the things that the program is coming to an end, as I wanted to bring my chronicle column to argue if Norton is not electable, why is Hughes electable? Are you saying that, good, Norton's gone, Hughes is the consensus candidate? Are you saying that people who would not have voted for Norton would just say, look, Nigel is a better man, let's give Nigel a chance? I'm asking you if, with you as the consensus candidate, people who would not have voted for Norton would now go and vote.
I believe so, yes. I believe so. I believe so.
And so therefore they're putting their assurance in use. You know what is wrong with that?
Yeah.
You know what is wrong with that? We are 8 months from the elections. You know when the elections are won? The elections is won 3, 2, 1 day before, as you saw in India. When PNC leaders go on that platform and tell people, where was Nigel Hughes? Why should Nigel Hughes become the president of Guyana? We were in the trenches. Hughes quit politics 3 times. Those are when those sermons resonate with people.
But those sermons will only resonate with the base. PNC, being a long-standing party, has a base, literally an almost immovable base. And what you're talking to will only appeal to that immovable base. You're converting the converted.
The operator said our time has come. So to answer the question, and then I go over to you for our views, because the advertisement is there for the people to see which one of these persons will get a rude awakening. I think it's Nigel Hughes and Aubrey Norton. What they're hoping for, I don't think they will get in the elections. Briefly?
Well, depends on how things turn out, and you're trying to make a prediction. I don't want to make a prediction right now, but if things go the way that there is no coalition, the person who will get the rude awakening would be Norton. And it can be a coalition and Nigel Hughes get a rude awakening, in that the PNC holds strongly, yeah, we want a coalition. Norton gonna step down, but Nigel, you also gotta step down. And I don't believe Nigel is mentally prepared for that aspect of it.
On that note, we will end our program. It's been quite an interesting program in which Leonard Craig, the economist, gave his views on politics. This has been part of our new format in which Leonard and I feel we are educated and analytical enough to present our views to the public, because we spend years just interviewing guests and we don't have a chance to talk about what's going to become of this actor and that actor in politics. So this has been another program in which Leonard and I were rapping with the public. We will see you on Friday, and then we have our guest hopefully on Monday. Until we see you then, thanks to Leonard and thanks to our operators. We will see you on Friday. Catch you later. Bye-bye.